You know, what makes a culture last? I don't mean for a few centuries, but for millennia. Today, we're going to dive into the incredible story of Iran, a civilization that has faced down some of history's mightiest empires, and somehow always came out the other side with its core identity still beating strong. So let's explore how they did it. And when we say old, we mean really old. This isn't just ancient history, it's one of the first places civilization itself took root. Long before Iran was even called Iran, the people on this plateau were building complex societies, like the Elamites, who emerged almost 5,000 years ago. So this isn't just a country, it's a continuous story, and we're going to trace that thread together. So, that's the big question, right? Through all the invasions, the revolutions, and these massive cultural shifts, something distinctly Persian has always endured. How? Well, let's find out. To really get our heads around this incredible resilience, we have to go back to the very beginning, to the empire that first put Persia on the map and really forged the foundations of its national character. Okay, so after those early Elamites, new tribes started moving onto the Iranian plateau. First up, you had the Medes, who built a pretty big kingdom. But it was their neighbors to the south, the Persians, who were about to change everything. In 550 BC, this visionary leader, Cyrus the Great, united the Iranian tribes and launched one of the most amazing conquests in all of history. But here's the thing, Cyrus's genius wasn't just about winning battles, it was about how he ruled. He had this revolutionary idea. Instead of crushing local cultures, he respected them. This policy, famously written down on the Cyrus cylinder after he took Babylon, is even seen by some as one of the world's very first charters of human rights. It really set the stage for a truly multicultural empire. And the scale of what he and his successors built, it is just staggering. At its absolute peak, under Darius I, the Achaemenid Empire was the largest the world had ever seen. It stretched all the way from the edges of Greece to India. And it wasn't just huge, it was incredibly well organized, with standardized taxes, a system of provinces, and the famous royal road for super-fast communication. This was, without a doubt, the powerhouse of the ancient world. But as we all know, no empire lasts forever. The fall of the Achaemenids kicked off a new recurring chapter in Iran's story, one of foreign invasion. And yet, this is also where we see that unique cultural strength really begin to shine. The first big wave of invasion came from the west. In 330 BC, Alexander the Great's army just swept through, toppling the once mighty Persian Empire. For about the next century, Iran was ruled by his Greek successors, the Seleucids, who brought their language and culture along with them. But even with Greek as the language of power, underneath the surface, local Iranian traditions stubbornly held on. Fast forward almost 1,000 years, and a second, even more transformative wave arrived. The local Sasanian dynasty had brought back Persian glory, but after centuries of exhausting wars with the Byzantine Empire, they were vulnerable. Muslim Arab armies swept up from the south, and by 651 AD, the old Persian Empire had fallen once again. This didn't just bring a new ruler, it brought a new religion, Islam, which would fundamentally reshape the entire region. And then came the third wave, and this one was maybe the most destructive of all. In the 13th century, the Mongol hordes just ripped across Asia and right into Iran. Their invasion was apocalyptic. They destroyed entire cities and caused a catastrophic loss of life. Honestly, it seemed like a blow that no culture could ever recover from. And this is the crucial point. Despite being defeated on the battlefield time and time again, the culture itself didn't just fight back, it actually conquered its conquerors. After the Arab conquest, the Persian language came roaring back, using the Arabic script, which fueled a huge literary renaissance. Persian scholars and scientists became absolute stars of the Islamic Golden Age. And even the Mongols, the most feared conquerors of all, eventually started adopting the customs of the land they now ruled. Their leaders became great patrons of Persian art and architecture. You see, Iran didn't just survive its conquerors, it absorbed them. So by the 16th century, after all these years of absorbing outside forces, Iran was ready for another profound change, but this time it was going to come from within, setting it on a really unique path that would make it stand out from all its neighbors. Okay, this moment right here, it's a total game changer. In 1501, the new Safavid dynasty, led by Shah Ismail I, made a declaration that still echoes today. Twelver Shia Islam, a branch of Islam with its own distinct beliefs, would become the official state religion.
This was a monumental decision, and it had consequences that would last for centuries.
With this one move, Iran basically carved out a religious identity that was completely separate from its powerful Sunni neighbors, especially the Ottoman Empire to the west. This created a new, powerful fusion, a culture that was proudly Persian and a faith that was deeply Shia. And that laid the groundwork for the modern nation we know today. Which brings us to the modern era. The 20th century was an absolute whirlwind of foreign interference, internal struggle, and revolutionary fire that would once again totally transform Iran, bringing an end to 2,500 years of monarchy. You can practically see the dominoes falling, one by one. It started with a push for a more democratic government back in 1906, then a fight for economic independence, when Prime Minister Mossadegh nationalized the British-controlled oil industry. But in 1953, a coup backed by the CIA and British intelligence crushed that movement and put the Shah back in absolute power. That single event planted the seeds for decades of simmering resentment.
And that resentment found its voice in Ayatollah Khomeini. He was exiled for his opposition, but his message was simple and incredibly powerful. The Shah was a puppet of the West, and Iran needed to reclaim its independence. And in a fascinating preview of how technology would shape future revolutions, his speeches were smuggled back into the country on cassette tapes. They spread his message like wildfire and galvanized millions of people. So, when the revolution finally succeeded in 1979, the new Islamic Republic was founded on a principle that had been brewing for thousands of years: fierce independence. Right in the middle of the Cold War, Iran refused to align with either the United States or the Soviet Union, choosing its own confrontational and self-reliant path that really continues to define its foreign policy to this day. So from ancient emperors who promoted tolerance, to poets who saved a language, to revolutionaries using cassette tapes, Iran's story is just one of constant adaptation and incredible cultural survival. It has absorbed conquerors, transformed religions, and defied superpowers. But today, the biggest challenge might not be from an invading army, but from within, from a new generation with its own ideas about what it means to be Iranian. After 5 millennia, the next chapter in this incredible story is still being written.